both here and on the phone. And if you could all please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for either attending or participating in this this virtual deal we got going on. We do not have an audience here, so we have no comments from the audience. Do we have any corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar? How about we get a motion in on adoption?
Approval of the agenda and the consent calendar.
Second. And we'll do a voice vote again, I'm
Yeah, we'll
assuming.
do a voice vote even though we've got several people here. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Director Jones? Director Jones? Approval of the consent calendar? Okay, let's move to President Vogelsang.
Yes.
Director Sheehan? Yes. Director Exline?
Yes.
And we'll go back to Director Jones.
Yes, I got my sound here now.
Okay, perfect. All right.
You can hear me?
We can hear you just fine. And that motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Items for board action, item A, Tahoe Keys Pump Station Rehab Project. Julie is here to discuss that.
Good afternoon. Today we need to hold a public hearing in support of finding this project substantially complex to allow us to increase the retention from 5% to 10%. And then we're asking that the board authorize staff to advertise for construction bids on this important project. So,
Why don't we open the public hearing right now?
Open the public hearing?
Okay.
So I'll read the list of findings that make this project substantially complex. A little bit of background about the project as a reminder. The Tahoe Keys Pump Station was constructed a little over 50 years ago. It's at the corner of Ben's Boulevard and Tahoe Keys Boulevard. And it is in need of an overhaul. We are looking at not only replacing the pumps at the station, but we're also changing the style of pumps and replacing the wet well. And also all of the electrical gear. We'll be maintaining the existing building as an electrical room, but there's really a substantial amount of work to be done in and around this pump station while it continues to be in operation. So this project we've been working on it for a couple of years, went through an alternatives evaluation of different options for that station, and the most cost-effective route seems to be this project that we've proposed to you. So it really is a very complex project because the existing station needs to remain operational while we're doing the work at the site. But there's also a number of other reasons why the project is complex. Number one, we can't actually test the functionality of the new station until it's fully constructed and online, which is one of the recognized reasons for a project to be considered complex. There will be 2 or more different trades or subcontractors involved in the construction of the project. This project is subject to special regulations and requirements by other agencies. It involves instrumentation controls and mechanical equipment, all of which are elements of construction that are not typical on most district projects. This construction schedule is a significant concern because of the foreshortening construction season within Lake Tahoe Basin, and this project does include quite a bit of subsurface work. And that subsurface work is going to be largely below the water table. The groundwater surface at this location, I think you're all aware, is about 4 feet below ground surface. It's the same location that we had the infamous Tahoe sinkhole a few years ago. And this project site is located in close proximity to residences and other commercial buildings. And it does have large underground structures and facilities. So for all those reasons, we only needed one of them to make it substantially complex. But for all these reasons, we're asking that the board find the project substantially complex. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. We've been following this project all along, thanks to your information. So I think we're all pretty well briefed on this. I guess at this point, I could close the public hearing. And if there's no other discussion, why don't you read us a motion? We can have discussion even after you make a motion. But,
all right.
you want to do that?
So I'm asking that the board, pursuant to the facts, find the Tahoe Pump Station Rehabilitation Project is substantially complex and requires a 10% retention limit. And I'm asking the board authorize staff to advertise for construction bids. And one thing I didn't mention is that the estimate for construction is coming in at $4.6 million.
Not a cheap project. So moved. Second by Chris. Does anybody on the phone there have anything else they want to add or any questions?
No, like you said, we've followed this for a long time. Julie's kept us up to date at the office meeting monthly, so I'm good to move forward.
Okay, go ahead, Norman.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Director Cefalu?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are going to move into the Groundwater Management Plan Annual Report. And once again, we're looking at a public hearing. Evo, are you on the phone?
Can you hear me, Andy?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. You want to pass the screen over to me, Brian?
All right, Eve, what's yours?
Can you guys see that?
Yeah. Oh,
Are you able to see my screen?
we don't have it. We could go sit in the
Oh, I'm
audience
sorry.
if you want.
Michael.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, we do have it. Let's
Great.
Let's do this, Evo, real quick. I'm going to open the public hearing about this project right now, and then you can give your presentation right now.
Okay.
Go ahead, anytime you're ready.
Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, board members. For the record, my name is Ivo Bergson, and I'm pleased to join you online today to present the 2019 Water Year Annual Report for the Tahoe South Basin. The annual report is due to the California Department of Water Resources on April 1st of each year, but due to the current public health emergency, that submittal due date has been waived. So after today's presentation, the annual report will be submitted to DWR and then posted on the groundwater page of the district's website. So the annual report is organized into 5 sections, plus there's an executive summary and a list of references. Section 1 generally describes the contents of the report, the basin setting, and classification used to assign water year type based on precipitation. Section 2 summarizes the hydrologic conditions within the groundwater basin. Section 3 summarizes the basin management objectives related to the groundwater conditions and the actions and resources expended to implement the groundwater management plan. Section 4 provides a list of ongoing and new planned actions to administer the groundwater management plan during the current 2020 water year. And Section 5 highlights any changes made to the groundwater management plan. There were no changes that were made to the groundwater management plan during the 2019 water year. The South Tahoe groundwater model is used to calculate a water budget for the groundwater system, which is then reported to DWR in the annual report. To report changes in groundwater storage, the model calculates a water budget for 2 regions. The first region is the model domain, so this is the larger area that's outlined in black. And the second region is the TVS basin, or the Tahoe Valley South Basin, which is the smaller area outlined in blue. The model domain covers an area of almost 100,000 acres, about 156 square miles, which includes the Tahoe Valley South Basin, which is from here on going to be referred to as the TVS Basin, and the surrounding watershed areas to the watershed divide, which reaches an elevation above 10,000 feet of elevation. The TVS Basin, again, is a smaller area, which covers an area of about 15,000 acres, or about 23 square miles, which is limited to the basin fill, or the valley floor area, up to an elevation of about 6,500 feet. The table on the left shows the water budget terms for these 2 regions for the 2019 water year, which are presented in the annual report. To take a closer look at the TVS Basin, you can see that it extends from the south end of Christmas Valley for about 10 miles north to the south shore of Lake Tahoe. And then it extends from the state line west about 8 miles along the south shore of Lake Tahoe to the western margin of the Flat Creek watershed. For the sake of description in the annual report, the basin is subdivided into 6 geographic subareas, which are shown: the Angora, Bijou, Christmas Valley, Myers, South Lake Tahoe, and Tahoe 2 subareas. So water years are used to compare temporal changes in hydrologic conditions within a specific area. Water year type for the TVS Basin is based on the precipitation measured at the Hoggins Meadow Snowtail Station site, which is Station 508 on the east side of the basin. During 2019, the total precipitation measured at this site was 39.2 inches. Based on historical records for the reference station, the 2019 water year is described as an above normal water year. This is compared to the average over the period record measured at the station at 31.5 inches total. So here we are in the 2019 water year, and we're just out of the normal into an above normal year. Here's some hydrographs to show changes in groundwater levels within the basin. So field measurements of these groundwater levels show that there are, groundwater level changes over the long term are stable. Overall groundwater levels across the basin increased very slightly compared to the 2018 water year levels, and increased on average a total of about 0.04 feet. The South Tahoe groundwater model was also used to calculate changes in groundwater levels in response to changes in hydrologic conditions. Model simulated groundwater elevation contours for seasonal low groundwater conditions, being October 2018, shown in brown, and seasonal high groundwater conditions for May 2019 in blue are used to show the general pattern of groundwater flow. Looking at this map, you can see that groundwater flow across the basin is generally directed northward from the margins of the basin to Lake Tahoe. Groundwater contours do not show significant shifts in changes between these low and high groundwater conditions, which show that seasonal changes in elevation were relatively minor. The model simulations do show this groundwater depression here right along the at the north end of the South Lake Tahoe subarea. It's a broad, shallow groundwater depression, and this is also the area where more than 70% of the groundwater produced from the basin is extracted. South White Plume continues to be the greatest threat to groundwater quality within the basin. During 2019, the Lahontan Region Water Quality Control Board directed a regional plume investigation to delineate lateral and vertical extent of the South White Plume. Take a look at the map on the right from preliminary data collected during this investigation. It shows that the plume extends north for more than 5,300 feet from source areas located at the south end near the South Y and extending northward towards the Tahoe Lagoon. You'll also see, if you take a look at this yellow contour line, this is 50 parts per billion, or 10 times the drinking water standard for PCE, that it covers a very broad area which covers a majority of the plume. You see that the plume is a very broad, diffuse contaminant plume across this entire area. Groundwater is the primary source of drinking water within the basin. Metered groundwater production from public water system wells owned and operated by the district, Tahoe Water Company, and Lucan Brothers Water Company is believed to account for more than 90% of the groundwater use within the basin. During the 2019 water year, groundwater production from all the active wells totaled a little over 6,771 acre feet. Annual groundwater production from these wells, on average since 2005, is about 7,729 acre feet. So in terms of basin management objectives, we've achieved a number of accomplishments during the 2019 water year. I just want to go over a couple of these. One of the most significant is on the top line, and that was the determination by the California Department of Water Resources that the district's 2014 groundwater management plan satisfied the objectives of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and was approved as an alternative to a groundwater sustainability plan for our basin. So with this approval, allow the district to amend the 2014 groundwater management plan and continue management of the basin in conformance with SGMA, again, using this plan. The other notable achievement that I'd like to highlight is the progress that our project team has made toward completing the South White feasibility study. I think this is very well indicated by the scope of the technical documents that were delivered for this project during the 2019 water year, including completion of a human health risk assessment report, a pre-design investigation or groundwater report, and also 2 groundwater modeling on the freight and transport work that was done to evaluate the effectiveness of the different remedial alternatives which were developed as part of the feasibility study. Again, with regard to the feasibility study, this project is expected to be completed by the end of June, coming up in the next couple months. So as far as proposed actions for the current 2020 water year, there's a number of ongoing actions that we do regularly. I'm not going to focus on those. I'm just going to talk briefly about the planned activities for the 2020 water year. These include updating the amended and restated MOU between the district and county water agency for collective management of the basin. We're also looking to adopt a resolution of intent to update the 2014 groundwater management plan, which I think you're going to see soon. We also need to conduct some additional investigations that are recommended to update the groundwater management plan, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the next agenda item. And we're also looking to, if we can do it in a manner that is consistent with social distancing and other safe practices during this public health emergency, conduct the phase 2 survey of the private well owners, which is a survey which we started and did the phase 1 work in 2017. So with that, I'm open to trying to answer any questions that you might have about the annual report at this time.
We're good here in person. Anybody out there in Ether land have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good as well.
No comment.
Okay, I think at this point, then we can close the public hearing on this. And then, Evo, you can go on with your next one, which is about the proposal from the Desert Research Institute.
Okay. Just get this thing loaded up here. Okay, so this is agenda item 16. Bear with me for a second here. Okay, item 16. What this involves is that I'm seeking to make some changes to an existing task order, task order 5, which is between the district and Desert Research Institute. The changes need to add new work, which will address recommended actions identified by DWR for the 5-year update of the district's groundwater management plan. The change in scope will be used to conduct hydrologic analysis using our groundwater models developed by DRI. And information developed from this analysis will then be used to address the recommended actions and incorporate it into the 5-year update of the groundwater management plan. We're starting this work now. The update has a deadline for submission to DWR by January 1, 2022. But this is about going to take about a year's worth represents about a year's worth of effort with DRI to complete these different tasks. And then there are also some, after we finish up the doing those technical studies, having to incorporate that and put it in the groundwater management.
Are you guys okay?
Hello?
What's the matter?
Okay.
Got a little family interruption there.
Okay, and then, okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, hang on a second. Everybody on the phone, if you're not talking, if you can mute your phone, it would be great. Brian's gonna do it for her.
I don't see them.
Did somebody walk away from their phone?
Kim, that sounds like a very unhappy customer.
That's not me. I think it might be Liz.
Let's blame somebody.
Okay, yeah. Liz, mute your phone.
So the last point that I'd like to make is that this project is also listed on the groundwater projects which we've identified for County Water Agency cost share funding for the upcoming 2021 fiscal year. So I put this table together just to show the board how the DWR recommended actions are aligned with the tasks in the scope of work for DRI. So if you take a look at task one will be used to address recommended actions 1, 2, and 3 from DWR. And what we plan on doing is we're going to use the existing South Tahoe groundwater model. We're going to use that to develop projected water budgets over a 50-year planning horizon into the future, considering climate change and population growth changes within the basin. Under task two will be used to address recommended action 5. And this, we're going to use the modeling evaluation work, which was recently completed from the South Hawaii Fate and Transport model, to illustrate how groundwater pumping impacts plume migration and also can potentially cause degraded water quality within the groundwater basin. We're going to use task 3 to address recommended action 6. And here the South Tahoe groundwater model will be used to complete which is termed a capture analysis, showing where stream depletion is greater than 50% within a model layer. And using these criteria, a groundwater management area will be defined in order to help develop sustainability indicators and minimum thresholds to protect interconnected surface waters. Task 4 will be used to address recommended action 7. Here, minimum thresholds and sustainability indicators developed during the analysis of basin conditions completed with DWR in 2016 will be reviewed and compared against draft management criteria which have been developed by DWR. We're also going to look at external factors, for example, climate change, which may have which in itself may have a detrimental impact on groundwater resources within the basin, which are beyond the district's control. And finally, task 5 will address recommended action 8, and we'll do that just in the course of doing the previous 4 tasks by identifying data gaps and other potential data needs that may be identified during the performance of those tasks, and then highlighting those for incorporation into an updated implementation plan for the updated groundwater management plan. So that's what item 6C is about. Again, I'd be happy to help answer any questions you might have about this agenda item.
Is this increased? Oh, sorry. Who was out there?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So basically, you're asking for $55,000 more. You're raising your cap up $55,000. Is this an expense that could be put off for a period of time? Right now, I'm not in the mood to increase spending at all. In fact, I'm in the mood to decrease spending, and so that we can function and possibly even reduce rates. What's driving this increase? Is this time critical stuff?
It is. I mean, again, it's because the update is has a deadline for submission to DWR by January 1, 2022. again, we're talking about a year's worth of work here. And it's something that, again, I believe is necessary to start. Because again, doing this update to the groundwater management plan is going to be a lengthy process.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else have anything?
Yes, this is Jim. Are all groundwater management areas being required to do all these same tasks?
No, this is based on DWR's review of the district's groundwater management plan. I'm not certain if these are, I have no knowledge that these are universal, but I know that these are items that were identified for the district's groundwater management plan.
This seems like a lot of additional information. We've already submitted a plan, and we're in pretty good shape. We're being required to do things that everybody else is, should be doing because they didn't do it over the years and they've created the problem. But for us to do it, it seems like a waste of time and money.
That's a good point, Jim.
Sorry?
I was saying good point, Jim. I think you said what I was thinking. You just said a little better than I did. Do you have any thoughts on this, John?
Only what I want to add, and it is part of the write-up, it is one of our expected El Dorado County Water Agency cost share projects that cuts our burden in half.
I know it's not a lot of money. We just spent for something $1 million on a pump station, but by comparison, what's that? But still, it's every little bit counts.
Yeah, maybe Evo, you can chime in on this. I don't think we did not do this. I don't think we're in violation of any state requirement. Is that correct, Evo?
We wouldn't be in violation. We're required to submit an updated groundwater management plan, again, by that January 1st, 2022 deadline. There are, again, specific things and additional information needs that DWR has asked for. I don't think it's going to, cause us to be out of compliance. But then again, if we, I would like to get this completed during this update, and that way we're checking off all the boxes for the groundwater management plan, and I think the district will be on a good footing to continue this in the future.
Wouldn't there be any discussion with these, with the reporting of this, that as a result of everything going on and the reasons both Jim cited, that we don't need to complete this extra cost now? It just seems like to check some boxes to spend $50,000 seems like a lot of money.
I think from what I have seen, that as far as for other agencies, they are making the point that they are moving forward with their groundwater management activities, even in with this public health emergency, concurrently with it. It's not stopping their groundwater management activities. So I don't, from what I've seen so far, I don't believe that DWR, believes that this implementation of the Groundwater Management Act is going to be put on hold.
No, I wouldn't suggest that. More that the additional information beyond what we've traditionally done is going to be required in this environment.
If I can weigh in just a little bit, and Evo, you and Gary as well, if you guys will correct me if I'm misperceiving any of this. Going back to the groundwater management plan and the sustainable groundwater management program as a whole, we dodged a bullet in not having to do a sustainable groundwater management plan. And in avoiding that, we really did not see nearly the cost that many other agencies have seen for completing that sustainable groundwater management plan. Instead, because of Ivo's work and the quality of our groundwater basin, we were able to utilize the groundwater management plan and have that submitted and accepted. That has saved our ratepayers a considerable sum, in my opinion, and it's hard to capture exactly what that dollar amount is. And so, since we have been approved underneath this this somewhat different program, and we're being required at this point to submit a sustainable groundwater management plan, and we've used our groundwater management plan in lieu of that. Because we're able to do that, we've saved the ratepayers quite a bit of money by doing this work that is being proposed and requested by the state in order to update our groundwater management plan and keep it as our sustainable groundwater management plan. If we do this work now and we update this plan to their requirements, we are continuing to minimize our risk of having to do a full formal sustainable groundwater management plan. And that, to me, is a benefit to our organization, to our ratepayers in the long term. I recognize there's costs now to do this, but I believe that there really is a benefit in doing this now because it keeps us on a track which has saved us money and will keep us, I think, saving money so that we don't bear that cost in the future. And again, Gary and Ivo, that's my perception of the program and what we're asking to do here. If that is incorrect, please correct me.
This is Gary. Just a couple of comments I'll tag on to what Shannon said and what Ivo presented. You know, the length of time to complete this work, as Ivo outlined, really doesn't allow for much, if any, delay in getting it going because some of the studies just take a long time to do. And what Shannon was saying is, I think, is absolutely correct. The district has saved, I think, an enormous amount of money and effort not having to do a GSP. Was able to use its existing plan. And in doing so, we've avoided the state board from coming in and taking over and for enforcement of the plan. If we don't stay in compliance and these tasks are not completed, there is a risk that the state, the PWR, and then the state board with enforcement would take over and take over the management of the basin itself. And frankly, I know it's not my money, but for the cost that he was proposing for these additional studies to complete, it's relatively, I would say, minor compared to what we could face if they weren't done and the state board took over enforcement and management of the basin. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I think you guys have both presented your arguments well. Does anybody have any objections to moving forward with this thing?
I just have one more question.
Sure.
Is this a one-time cost, or is this annually, every year, indefinitely? Like, are we going to comply with these requests, and then next year we get like 5 more hoops to jump through for an extra $50,000? I mean, the question is, where does this end? Is this it? Like a one-time shot?
Ivo, maybe you can, it's not one time, but for this set of tasks it would be. Ivo?
The process with an improved alternative is that the district will be required to resubmit an alternative every 5 years on a rolling 5-year basis. As far as the heavy lifting work for our alternative, I think the majority of that has been completed. Again, this is the first review of our existing 2014 groundwater management plan. We have completed a lot of work over the past 5 years. That new information will be incorporated into the updated plan. Addressing these additional items into the updated plan, I think, again, is going to cover the majority of the additional work that we will need to do. That doesn't mean that there's going to be no cost whatsoever involved with this for administering this program. I mean, there's going to be a minimal amount that's going to be required as we move forward and maintain the groundwater management plan.
Yeah, I think if you look at our 10-year budget, we have funds budgeted in every year of the 10-year plan for these types of effort. And I think that has definitely come down in recent years. I think at this point, looking out at the next 10 years, it's in the 50 to 75,000 per year range, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
All right, why don't we do this? I move that we accept the cost proposal from the Desert Research Institute for hydrologic services needed for the 5-year update of the 2014 groundwater management plan, which includes 1, increasing the annual cap from $20,000 to $75,000, 2, extending the time of performance from March 31st to June 30th, 2021 for task order number 5, and 3, adding an additional $55,000 to purchase order number 2019-728 to complete this work.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a first and a second. Director Cephalo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsay?
Yes.
Director Sheehan? Yes. Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pretty picture.
Thank you very much, board members.
Thanks, Evo.
Okay, 2020 sewer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evo.
I'm back. The 2020 sewer improvements project, you should have received a packet of information regarding our bid opening that was held last week. We received 4 bids for this project. They ranged from, let's see, $2,553,477 to $3,682,617.20. The low bid was a little bit above the engineer's estimate. There were some modifications that were made to the design during the course of the bid period that we didn't add into the engineer's estimate. So the prices were pretty close to what we were expecting. The total bid results includes the cost for the replacement of the sewer laterals along Apache Avenue, like we had talked about a couple board meetings ago. And the price is coming in at about $2,500 per service replacement. So we think that that is a reasonable deal for us to go ahead and replace each of those 48 laterals along that stretch of road as part of this sewer replacement project. So the low bidder was Verdict Excavating, and we have done a thorough review of the bid and any minor deviations on the bid, and the project whole is going to include improvements to our Santa Fe office facilities and yard, so that we'll be able to continue using that as a staging area in the future, use that for operational purposes, material storage, things like that. And then it also includes this Apache Avenue sewer line replacement, 2 force main bypasses, one for the Tahoe Keys force main and one for the Upper Truckee force main. Those are both necessary pieces of work to be done before those pump station projects commence, so that we'll have an ability to bypass each of those stations in the event of an emergency. without a major impact to our operations. And then, what else is on this bid? Those are the four major pieces, but we do also have two line items on there that are for as directed T&M work on the remainder of our water and sewer systems. If things come up over the course of the year that we want to take immediate action on under direction from staff without developing a full plan set or having to declare an emergency, depending on what the situation is. So, do you have any questions about the project, about the bids that were received?
This is another one of those projects that you've kept us informed all along, so I myself don't have any questions. I don't know if anybody else does.
Yeah, the one thing that was sort of a surprise was the cost per linear foot for gravity main replacement was higher than our engineer's estimate. So one place where we had kind of a miss on our estimating, but that's not super surprising to me because we haven't done a whole lot of gravity main replacement in the past. We had thought it was going to come in just for the 8-inch pipe in the ground about $150 a linear foot. The prices that we saw range from $165 to over $300 a linear foot. So
we got 4 bids, which was good.
Yeah, people definitely seem to be getting hungry, and because of the urgent nature of getting this action sewer main replaced, we do intend to go ahead and proceed with this work as soon as we can get the contract completed and the notice to proceed issued.
Anybody out there on the phone or the internet have any questions? Okay.
Well, with that, I'd like to ask that the board waive the minor deviations in the bid from Burdick Excavating and award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Burdick Excavating Company, in the amount $2,553,477, including the alternative bid items regarding sewer service lateral replacement. And just one thing to point out, I'll be back shortly with a change order that will reduce the amount of this contract by $83,000 for the items that we won't be using just to reconnect the laterals. So the price will go down a little bit.
I'll give you a so moved on the first part of that.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a first and a second. Director Cephalo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline? Director Exline?
Bueller?
He muted his phone, he forgot to unmute it.
No, I was on mute and then it went to my security code. Yes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Okay, payment claims.
I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,186,166.06.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Director Cephalo?
Yes.
Director Jones?
Yes.
President Vogelsang?
Yes.
Director Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Okay. The motion also passes unanimously.
Okay, do we have any standing and ad hoc committee reports? Anybody doing any virtual meetings? I don't think there were any that I can think of. How about board member reports? Any board members have anything they want to discuss?
No, we did. I have one little one that we did at the ECC yesterday. It was fairly cumbersome to be on a phone, for the ECC because we didn't get burritos. But anyway, we talked about some things that John and I had spoken about a couple of days before that, namely Plan C, which would be taking more drastic measures on the rates in the event that this persists or gets worse. So, that was kind of the whole report I gave to the board.
How's the turnout on that? Do you know how many people were listening in on that?
I think it was 36.
Okay, so it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, that's important.
Yeah, okay. And I don't think anything's going on at the Alvarado County Water Agency fair, is it?
Meeting was canceled. Yeah, it was last week or week before. Meeting was canceled, and yeah, no other updates.
No. Okay, that leads us to the general manager report.
Okay, thanks, Randy. Starting with a staffing update. This has been going on for a little while, but we are currently on hold for 3 recruitments, underground repair water, and 2 heavy maintenance positions. And then in regards to seasonal workers, we had been recruiting through Blue Ribbon in anticipation of the upcoming field season, but we are reassessing that now, both in terms of a delayed start or reducing or eliminating seasonals as a cost measure. So this would come with trade-offs, of course. Our use of the seasonal workers is really a relatively inexpensive way to get lower-level system maintenance work done, work that has been put off for years or I think actually never done in some circumstances, such as maintenance of our fire hydrants. So there'll be some trade-offs. We'll want to talk about it, and we will bring these back to the board for direction. Next, I want to talk about, of course, COVID-19. And the board's been kept up to date on response plan changes and my informational emails. And your COVID-19 planning team continues to connect every day with call-in meetings. Each day we start with an update from Melanie on the changes in COVID cases locally and also in Nevada and California. And Melanie, I wonder if you could give the board an update for today.
Sure. I sent out an email earlier with the update, so you all have it dated back to, I think the first one we did was March 31st. But basically, this morning's update included cases confirmed in California, 27,098, Nevada, 3,214, and of those, let's see, in California, we have 890 deaths and 137 deaths in Nevada. So great news there. El Dorado County, we have 35 confirmed cases, 0 deaths, and one, actually we have in South Lake Tahoe, we have 11 cases that have been confirmed. No deaths in South Lake Tahoe either. In Douglas County, there are currently 13 confirmed cases, 0 deaths. We have in Washoe 549 confirmed cases with 14 deaths. Placer County, 129 confirmed cases with 7 deaths. Nevada County, which we've included lately, did I report Alpine? Alpine has 2 confirmed cases with 0 deaths. And then Nevada County, which includes Truckee, has 34 confirmed cases with 1 death. And then again, South Lake Tahoe, 11 confirmed cases with 0 deaths. So this is changing all the time. We definitely check 2 sources for each of these. We check the local county site, which they're changing all the time and updating and doing a little different format depending on how much information they have. And we also check the Johns Hopkins site, which has a worldwide count on all the cases that have been confirmed and correlating deaths.
This is Jim. Do we have any information on where those 11 cases are, and are they in Barton, or are they quarantined at home, or?
The last I heard, Jim, and this was as of yesterday, there was 1 case currently at Barton Hospital, in the hospital.
Yeah, I heard one yesterday, but I think they actually might be releasing that one pretty soon.
Yeah.
So they're about a week, so it's like 1 in the hospital and everybody else is at home.
Yeah, everybody else is quarantining at home.
And at the Barton facility, they've actually, I mean, they test whoever comes in, and it goes through their facility at the Y. They've actually had 20 positive tests, but only 11 of those have been El Dorado County residents. So that's where the difference is.
I'm going to deviate here a little bit with the story. My son-in-law is a emergency room doctor at Johns Hopkins. And he's been pulling a number of shifts lately. He literally dresses in like a spacesuit. He has a hood with a shield with pumped air, filtered air into his helmet and everything so he can work his shifts. So just the big cities are a little different. Yeah.
Well, they're gearing up at Barton. They're, normally they have 50 beds, and they're preparing to have as much as 150 beds
Yeah,
available.
yeah, they've got
spot.
the mail-off center is closed for its regular function, and they're actually not setting it up for COVID. They're setting it up for regular patient care over there if they need to. They need to move it over.
Okay, interesting. Okay, thanks, Melanie. It looks like, I think the social distancing measures are having a strong effect. Nonetheless, and we're meeting with Barton or talking to them a couple times a week, once or twice, and they're really asking us to remain on high alert for a potential spike in the next 2 to 3 weeks still. So they're also concerned that if and when when the shelter-in-place measures start to be relaxed, we could see a lot more visitors in town, which could cause a local spike here and could overtake Barton in a hurry. So on one hand, we want the visitors to come back as soon as possible. If yes, Barton, that's a real concern for them. So ongoing concern and prudence is required. I think we're looking at that for unknown future. As for our staff, we are healthy with no COVID-19 related sickness. We did have one person on self-quarantine due to a potential secondhand COVID contact via New York, but that 14-day period ran its course, and he is actually back at work already. So that's good news. Back to our response plan, we remain at risk level 3, and I expect it will remain here for at least a few weeks, perhaps a month, perhaps 2 in some way, perhaps with some modifications for de-escalation, depending on state and local guidance and what we see in town and at the district. I think we must be patient at the district and not in a hurry to open up and de-escalate too fast. Because of the unique skill sets in various positions here, doing such essential work for the community, an outbreak in district crews could be really immediately problematic, and it's very difficult to replace our sick workers, unlike some other types of businesses. So we need to be careful about that. So I expect we will be cautious, and it will seem like we're somewhat slower to unwind maybe than other businesses. But the COVID team is already looking ahead on how best to accomplish this de-escalation in the coming weeks and months. So, and again, we still have risk level 4 that is out there available to us. Again, if we see a major outbreak in town and start losing our staff, those would be the drivers for moving from risk level 3 to risk level 4. And then I want to mention, Chris talked about ECC and his concerns, and I just want the board to know that we share your concern about the economic health of our community. With the downturn of some degree and some duration already underway, we recognize the need for the district to be a leader and a proactive community partner in our local economic recovery. So while we all hope this will all pass soon and our businesses will reopen and quickly take off where we left off, we also need to look ahead and prepare for other scenarios, including one of extended economic downturn. So we definitely have some ideas about that. We also know that spending less now may cause more problems, bigger, more costly problems later. So this is quite a challenge we need to balance. I've been working with Paul and others here at the district, looking back at the 2008 financial crisis. Over 50 of our staff were here then, including Paul and Julie, myself. The entire district worked together and made substantial changes, including cost reductions that got us through that crisis successfully. We did skip a lot of rate increases during that time, and that has lingering impacts, but we made it work, and we'll make it work now. So to the board, I just wanted you to have confidence that we do have the right people here, all throughout the district, the best people to tackle the challenging and most critical issue of our time. So that's COVID-19. On a closely related topic right now, the fiscal year 21 budget, we had some discussion at the last board meeting. I wanted to reopen that up again for board direction today. Last time we talked about rate scenarios and a board workshop on May 5th. And if you recall from previous years, usually our budget workshop includes really a fairly extensive budget review followed by details on the capital improvement program supported by that rate increase. So now we think this presentation would really not be effective, not well received at this time, and would very likely be followed by a 0% decision. So I think in the best case scenario, COVID ends, the economy rebounds, and we can perhaps bring this forward at a future board workshop, perhaps in November, and we can consider a current year rate increase at that time if we see those improvements. So going back to the last meeting, we heard the board, I think I heard a consensus actually, or nearly so, for a 0% rate increase at this time. We heard this and staff was met, we agree that a rate increase at this time is not appropriate. And we do have a recommendation for your discussion and direction today. A couple things. First, forego that May 5th board workshop. And secondly, proceed with the fiscal year 21 budget with the 0% rate increase for approval in May. Again, the workshop and the rate increases can be revisited at any time during this upcoming fiscal year up until a new budget is approved next May.
Yeah, thanks, John. For the rest of you, John and I discussed this last week, and I was behind that, both those items. Number one, I just don't see what it would do to meet and talk about, have a budget workshop. We really don't have a lot to talk about. There's too many unknowns at this point. John says we can visit this at any time. And then the second thing, 0% is good. We've got to get it going. We could talk about, as things go on, if things look really bad, we could talk about rate decreases too in the future. I think with the budget having to be adopted within a few weeks, I think we just go with 0 for now. And then as this plays out, we can either go up or down depending on which way it goes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both points as well.
Jim?
Yeah, it's a tough time. We need to do something drastic. Just to remind you that we're behind on capital improvements, and any reduction in the budget is probably going to come out of capital improvement projects. But at some point, we'll have to address that again. Back in 2008, unfortunately, that would have been a good time to have approved some projects, because there were a lot of construction firms out there that were willing to not make any profits on their projects. All they wanted to do was to keep their crews together and for their equipment. And we had a bunch of opportunities where we could have saved many millions of dollars on projects if we had gone ahead with them at that time. So I think that the next time around we need to, as soon as we start getting out of a financial crunch, that we should be ready to move ahead. But at this point, I don't think there's anything else we can do. Put it off.
We have a little more information. I think we can speak to that today. We have looked at what the impacts roughly of a 0% 1 year, 0% rate increase at 0% would have. Paul, can you provide a little more detail on that?
Sure. Of course, we wanted to have a full understanding of what that impact means to our 10-year plan. And the revenue impact of, the combined revenue impact of having 0% rate increases over that 10-year plan is about $21 million. So it's a big number. But we went back and looked at kind of how we're planning to structure our debt over the next 10 years. And we reconfigured some of that, as well as our ending reserve balances. And we were able to mitigate some of that impact in our books now. And so that $21 million revenue shortfall would actually equate to about a 12 to 12.5 million impact to the capital improvement program. But Jim makes a very fair assumption when he says we have to, decrease the capital improvement program. As you know, we told you over the last several years that all of the current rate increases in the current Prop 218 plan were for capital projects. And so obviously, if we're not going to have a rate increase, that's where reduction to come from.
And while I'm sure there's areas that we can tighten the belt, touch about all the other metaphors, Not to that scale.
Not to that scale, but obviously we are going to do that. We're going to try the budget as a whole and try to apply as many cost savings towards the capital improvement plan as possible.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate that effort because I know how hard it is to try and go backwards. But the thing is, it would be remiss for us to be unprepared in the event that this gets worse. So hopefully we don't have to do anything except for maybe keep the rates at 0% increase for this year or some portion of this year. But you know, I mean, John and I talked about a multifaceted cost reduction effort that spans the whole municipality, you know. So, you know, possibly saving by accelerated retirement or suspending open positions for a while. I mean, if it ends, it's all good. It's unwinding. It's going to be hard. I mean, we all know that Lakeside is closed forever, and I think that's the start of something you'll be seeing for us because we're a tourist economy. It's going to be fairly brutal, even if it's stopped today. I think we're in for some rough road. But I don't know that for a fact. I mean, as soon as they unwind, maybe the place gets flooded with tourists that want to get out of the Bay Area because they've been stuck there. So no one really knows. But it would be stupid not to be prepared if we have to do something.
I think we should be looking at some other places for funding and bank loans. We can do that. We also go to state revolving funds, and I don't know, maybe we could have a bake sale out in the.
Yeah, Jim, this can be, I mean, looking forward, it could be an opportunity to get some really good prices on projects. We do have some pretty high, some expectations that there will be stimulus funds available to us, that there will be climate resiliency funds coming out of the state of California. And my next item actually speaks to some of that, talking about in this case, the California Tahoe Alliance. This is a regional lobbying group in Sacramento. We continue to meet and strategize amidst COVID disruption. We had been working to promote projects and programs for a $6+ billion climate resiliency bond in California. And now we see this process could be realigned or even amplified for stimulus funding for infrastructure projects. So we want to be ready for that. So at the Alliance, we are refining our message and projects accordingly, putting together a list of shovel-ready and other near-term projects for construction over the next 2 or 3 years. And Julie and Lynn especially have been working on a master list of such projects that we can pull from as the various types of stimulus packages come forward at both the state and federal level. So taking a look at this list, over $20 million in projects. These are for water lines, the Keller Heavenly projects, Tahoe Keys Pump Station even, and other projects on our 10-year capital improvement program list. For many of these projects, environmental documentation is already complete, and that really helps get them approved should stimulus funding come forward. This really helped us in 2009, looking back. As a reference, the district was awarded about $5.5 million in federal grants with no match requirements as part of that 2009 American Recovery and Relief Act federal stimulus funding package. So all of those projects were shovel-ready at that time. Being shovel-ready was a big part, and having that environmental documentation in place at that time was a big part of getting that money right away. So we are getting ready, and we'll see what happens on the state and federal level as the stimulus proposals materialize. So that's it for today, Randy.
All right. Jim, are you still hanging on the phone there? We have on the next on our agenda is the monthly billing update. Basically, there was concern that with this unemployment being very high in our town and people not paying their bills, that monthly billing would be easier. The problem is we had scheduled this to transition when we got a new billing system. So we had asked Paul, who had Jim come to give us a report now. So Jim, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. So on my little intro, I kind of set up the situation. So you're going to give us a little more information on the monthly billing aspect.
Yeah, Randy. Basically, kind of give a quick summary today on kind of where we've been and where we're at, and hopefully where we're going to go with monthly billing. First off, I'd like to thank all the staff who's been involved with this billing conversion process, because switching over to an entire new billing system, it's been a huge undertaking. So I want to thank the IT staff, accounting, and the customer service for all the work that they've done. But as you remember, this process started in July of 2019, and the normal time for a completed billing conversion for a utility our size is roughly 9 to 12 months. So, we were on target to do it this quarter, but due to the COVID issues, we had to push it to July of this year, 2020. And again, this is going to be dependent on where we're at with the COVID virus at that time, because there could be travel restrictions and everything else. So we'll hope for the best and say, hopefully we can move forward in July. But to speak a little bit about implementing the monthly billing process for us, it would be ideal to do this in January of 2021. And the reason for taking 6 more months is, first, we want to make sure, everything from the conversion in July is in balance and running smoothly. And that's from reading and maintaining the meters to generating the bills and printing them and mailing them. We want to make sure all that runs smoothly before we do anything. Also, it would get us to the building season, if there is one. But being able to convert in an off-peak month like January would take a lot of burden and stress off the staff. And believe me, there's no one who wants monthly billing more than customer service. This is something that we have not only wanted for a long time, but our customers request it very frequently. Of course, the main problem with monthly billing is it's going to be expensive. Postage, paper, envelopes, everything it takes to do monthly billing, will be used 12 times a year instead of 4. Not to mention, converting the structure of our staff from a quarterly flat rate structure to a monthly meter rate structure will require some departmental changes. But, the price of doing business and providing what is best for our customers, it comes with a cost. But keep in mind, the monthly billing is not something new. Utilities have been, billing monthly for decades, so the cost to them don't look as big from year to year as it's going to look like to us, because they've been doing it for quite a number of years.
Hey Tim, this is Paul.
Yeah.
That's probably just a good place to have a quick pause, because you were talking about the associated costs. We'd like to have a finance committee actually 2 weeks from today, before the board meeting, to actually discuss those anticipated costs with you at that time. So that's Kelly and Chris.
Okay, you guys.
I'm fine with that.
I think I'll be here.
So like an hour before, or you just let me?
Yeah, and we'll send out some email. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Okay, I believe it was at the last board meeting, Randy, you had asked how many delinquent accounts that we had.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Right now, this current quarter that just went out, we had 2,041 delinquent accounts, and that's compared to 995 accounts that we had this time last year.
Wow, so over double.
But remember, we put out the message that would be no late fees.
No late fees.
So yeah, we were anticipating that.
So this doubling, how much is that money?
The current quarter that just went out is like $1,073,000.
Okay.
Compared to last year, it was around $550,000.
Okay. And then last year, those $550,000, they would have been sent a notice with a late fee, that's right? And so this year, are you going to send them a notice without a late fee, or just what are you guys going to do?
This year, you know, we can try to get a notice out. But the problem, Randy, is we don't really have anybody to do delinquent accounts like other utilities, and if we get the time, we just write a delinquent letter and send it to them. Of course, at this time, we can't shut anybody off, but we've not shut anybody off for years now because staff's just not available to do that right now.
So last year, you would have sent the delinquent notices out, then there would have been another time period would have passed before you turned it over to collections, right? Or we just give them a couple different notices?
Right. We also would send out a notice right before we turn it over to tax roll.
Okay. So now all of that's basically gone. So what's going to happen then? The next bill goes out and it's got the last bill on with it? Is that right?
It will, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, I understand, you know, the board's position on, you know, not wanting to spend any additional funds. Believe me, I hear it from the customers, and I, you know, believe in that myself. But, you know, when you look at the economic hardships that's going on right now, and not knowing when the economy is going to bounce back, I think this would be a great benefit to our customers.
The monthly billing, yeah. Yeah, it's just a matter of the timing isn't quite right with our software changeover, our billing process changeover.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, we'd be looking at January 2021 before we would be able to do anything.
So Tim, you think?
I would still be in favor of ensuring that when people get the bills, it is prominently displayed that they would have the ability to pay monthly now until that program is installed in January.
And I'm glad you set up. Nick, Shelley's going to speak about that.
That's right. Nick, you asked the perfect question for the perfect segue. Good afternoon, board members. This is Shelley Thompson. So to follow up on Tim's presentation and to address Nick's point as well, since we do know that it's going to be a while until we're able to move to monthly billing, I wanted to highlight some of the things that we're doing to let customers know of their ability to pay monthly, as well as some of our other programs. So back on March 20th, we sent an email and press release out notifying folks that the board's decision to waive late fees and suspend service disconnections for non-payments. So that, I think that was a great help. I've heard from customer service reps so many thanks for that. They've talked to so many customers that have been, whether they took advantage of it or not, were calling in with a lot of worry. So that definitely eased those woes. Our website, on the front page of it, in the carousel, we've got that prominently displayed about monthly payments and the option to do monthly payments. We have more detailed information on our bill, on our billing page. The bills that are going out, I believe they should be going out today, if not tomorrow. On the front, on the biggest box we can have on the bill for information, it says you can pay your bill monthly, check here for more information. We have very limited characters, but it is as prominently displayed as we can be on a bill. We put that message again this time around. And since bills will be hitting today, tomorrow, or Monday, the plan is to send out both an email to all of our customers whom we have email addresses for, so that's about half, as well as share a press release. But really step back and address what I think are your bigger concerns of what is available for our customers who might be facing hardships. So it focuses on 3 different programs. One is our financial assistance program. That's where folks can get a discount of 25% off their standard water or sewer rate. They have to be enrolled in Liberty's CARE program to be eligible. The second, which I think is going to come into play a lot right now, is our Helping Hands program. That's an emergency assistance program for customers who need help paying a bill, often just one time. We work really closely with the El Dorado County for Health and Human Services agencies when administering this program. Since they are so well connected to all the various financial programs that help support folks in need, they help us with that. And right now we have around $9,000 available for our customers to help with their bills. And then finally, we're going to address monthly billing. So letting folks know that while bills are due quarterly, that it is easy to set up monthly payments. When I reached out to customer service to see if they, last time the board had a similar conversation, we did a similar push. We put the information on our bill and on the front page of our website. So I reached out to customer service to see if they saw an uptick in folks signing up for or figuring out a way to pay monthly. And while they saw some, it wasn't as much as I had hoped. And the challenge is just, I think human nature is such that if a bill isn't due, if you get a bill in the mail and it's not due for 1 month or 3 months and money's tight, you put that bill off and focus on what you can until it's due. So we are going to move forward with all of that, with that additional outreach. It's on the bill. We'll be emailing customers either Monday or Tuesday next week, sending out a press release too. Our local newspapers have been great about getting the word out. But it's a balancing act right now. I think it's more than just talking about monthly billing. I think it's just letting folks know that we do have various programs available, and if you call customer service, they're here to help.
Well, Kim, will you always just accept a payment? I mean, if someone owes $600, will you take a $100 payment?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
So that's another option.
They would say, pay what you can.
Pay what you can, not necessarily a 1 month or pay in advance or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's something I heard from one of the customer service reps was, she hadn't necessarily noticed people paying their bill monthly. It was more if they called and their bill was due or late, starting to do partial payments monthly to try to offset what was past due already. So the good news is that, there are, if you want to, however many times you want to pay, there are no fees from us to pay as many times as you want. We don't do a credit card fee or anything. So.
I have a quick question. Is there the option to opt out of paperless billing? Do we have that option?
We do have that option, yes.
Okay.
We do promote it every chance we get.
Yeah. What percentage of people utilize that?
Nick, there is. There's quite a few that utilize that. I don't have the number. There is quite a few that utilize it. I don't know what that number is. Right off the top of my head, but I can find out.
Yeah, I mean, not that big a deal. I was just curious of how we would, lower kind of the mailing and paper costs associated with the 12 versus quarterly billing.
Sure, that's a good way to do it. Getting back to Kelly's comment, Kelly, what we run into is, we give customers the option to pay whenever they can. But, like if they forget, like in this case right now where we've waived penalties and we're not shutting off any service, there's a lot of them probably not going to pay. So the next thing you know, they're 2 quarters behind, and now their bill's $680 instead of $3, And so that's a lot of the problems that we run into on trying to
work with a customer, to get a payment plan in place so we can get the bill current.
Yeah, but Tim, you hit on a really important subject. Lost income is lost. And if you live on a very tight budget, sometimes week to week, and you can't pay your rent, 3 months, what are you going to be able to do to pay it in 3 months? I mean, that's my fear, right? I mean, if you can't pay it now, you're not going to be able to pay it in 3 months, especially if this continues.
Well, and I remember from when Tim and Ryan last year, right before we did, you turned the delinquent to the tax roll. Something that Ryan said that I remember was kind of like, it's almost like, even though we're not going to get the money, but if there's some change in title on the property, there's a lien on the property, we will get the money that's owed to us, but it gives that customer the chance to have a fresh start. Because am I correct? That's what
That is correct. Yes. Kelly, that is correct.
And so even though it's not ideal, it's not like we'll never get the money.
Well, it might.
Oh yeah, I mean, it might be 30 years, but
Yeah.
but it does give the customer the chance to start fresh and hopefully be on track.
Actually, what it does, Kelly, it actually gives them a payment plan through the county. So that's bought them more time to pay it at a later point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes I believe it takes maybe up to 5 years to recover some of this money.
Correct. Not the majority. That's definitely in the minority. But yeah, sometimes it takes several years to actually collect that.
Yeah, but the true tell will be at the end of the quarter when all the bills are due again, and you'll be able to see exactly what impact this is having on the people that haven't worked in probably 2 months.
We've already doubled over the year before, so it's only going to get worse. What was the job numbers yesterday? 22 million in this country. Unemployment could hit 20% here.
So it's probably going to be higher here.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm saying it's way higher here because our service costs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, announcing that we waive late fees might not have been our best idea. Even though it was a great public service, it wasn't a very good idea because we could have just waived late fees and not said we were waiving late fees, and it might have had a little bit different impact on it. And that's kind of where I was going when we were arguing about that last time. Not that you can put the tube back in that. You can't put the toothpaste back in that tube, so it's too late now. But that was my point.
Seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
Yeah.
With all of it.
So my initial thought was with yours, but Nick was very persuasive, so I
Well, I mean,
Well, I would say
I just got a degree in hindsight.
we can't exist in a reality where we're contemplating reducing rates and simultaneously not publicize the fact that we're going to waive late fees. We're either going to work with the community and be community partners, or we're not. But this hiding the ball, I still think, is a terrible idea. And we are owned and operated to some degree by the community, and so we must work on the behest of the community that's operating at unemployment way above 20%. So even I still disagree with that sentiment.
It's done, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to let Chris know, I agree with him on, it probably wasn't the best idea to announce waiving of the late fees, but when the state put in an order to not shut off anybody's water services until the state of emergency's been lifted, it probably wouldn't have made any difference.
No, that's true, but selfishly, that maybe the timing was bad. Maybe that's what I should set instead. You know what I mean? If we'd have waited until now, instead of the end of the last quarter, might have been a little different on your $1 million versus your 500,000.
That's true, yes.
Okay, do you have anything else for us, Tim? Any more cheerful news?
No, that's all I have today, Randy.
Okay. How are you, Shelley? Are you all wrapped up there too?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So Shannon, are you still on there to talk about capital improvements?
I sure am, and my report will be so much more full of light and joy, I'm sure. So this really isn't so much about the overall capital program, but I just wanted to speak briefly about really the upcoming construction season. I think we've had some conversations with various individuals about this, but I want to make sure that the whole board was hearing the same messaging. To start out with, I wanted to give express great appreciation to Julie and her engineering team, working through what we all are with the COVID unprecedented series of events that we're facing. They're trying to work on millions of dollars worth of contracts with contractors and figure out how to do that in this environment. It's pretty challenging, and they're doing a great job with that. With that said, our plans for this construction season are to work with contractors where we have already initiated contracts, and really on a case-by-case basis, we're looking at each contract to determine whether or not it is going to be a critical, that particular contract is a critical impact to the operation of our facilities and our system and our ability to deliver services to our customers. For example, Luther Pass is a project we've got to get done. But the meters project, for example, are not necessarily a project that if we don't do it this construction season, then we're still going to be providing water to those houses and to those customers. But as a project, ultimately we have to get done, but we could potentially delay that project. So we're really looking at projects on a case-by-case basis, and projects that have already been awarded and in previous years perhaps were under construction, like finishing out the generator project. We're working on each one of those, looking at, okay, is this a critical project? We've got to get it done this year. The Apache Sewer is one of those projects that we need to get done because we don't know if there's a bottom in that pipe. But with these other projects, do we have to do them? If we don't, then we're working with the contractors to figure out what to do on a case-by-case basis with that project. Should we delay it? Should we were talking to those contractors to determine whether or not we can negotiate with them delay of the work in the case of projects that have not yet been started. For example, the Heavenly Tanks or the Keller Tanks project. And if we can do that with minimal cost to the district, then we can negotiate some sort of agreement that allows us to potentially delay the project till a later time, whether that's starting later this construction season or waiting until next construction season. So regardless of the project, we're looking at them to figure out what's the best way of moving forward. And in some cases, if we can't work with a contractor, if they're not willing to negotiate with us in a way that minimizes the cost to the district, we may well terminate those contracts going forward and have to rebid that work. And again, Julie's doing a great job working with her team to be in contact with these contractors to figure out what's the right thing to do, and also working with our attorneys and asking the right questions to figure out, how do we process this, and what are our limitations in doing this, and what's the proper way to proceed so that we don't expose the district to any risk going forward. Again, I think they're doing a great job, and we're moving forward in that fashion with our construction contract and our program for this coming year. In projects where we will be moving forward, the Apache Sewer, for example, we are working on figuring out how to set up protocols to minimize risk both to our staff, to the community, and to the contractor staff for the spread of the coronavirus on that project, or the risks of spreading that associated with the project. Those may look like very individualized programs with some general concepts in place, but again, they need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. A big difference between working at Luther Pass, which is somewhat isolated and not with not much public involvement in that area, versus the Apache Sewer, where we're working in the road in front of a lot of houses. Very, very different situations. Anyway, that's where we're sitting at going forward, taking projects this summer. and we will be reporting back on a project-by-project basis about ultimately what our resolution to adapting each project to the coronavirus situation, the COVID-19 situation. We are also, I think it's been said before, we're also preparing projects and looking at how to pursue the grant funding opportunities going forward. How do we position projects to be better, to be more appealing to grant funding agencies? We're working with the folks in Washington. I think John mentioned it earlier that Lynn and Julie are putting together this list of projects and narratives. We're also going to be working with Eric and David to get their insights in how to best present that information and how to, in ways and provide language for project descriptions that may make those projects more enticing to funding agencies when we're developing these projects. So that's all I had to say about the capital program. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer. Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon. Appreciate that. I every time we vote to build this or do that, I always think it's like, are we going to be able to pull this off this year? And you guys will make the right decision, I'm sure. So.
Well, Shannon, since we already have a short building season, what happens if you get contractors that are kind of hesitant or unable to provide full staffs, or we have to hold off for a month or 6 weeks into your building season, which is already only 4 or 5 months to begin with? I mean, that's got to suck, actually.
Right. Yeah, and I'll give a hypothetical example. Really specifically, because we're on the record here, I don't want to talk about any specific project. So just hypothetically, if a contractor is saying, we've got shelter in place, I can't move forward, I can't mobilize staff, we're not going to be able to do this project in the given time period in this construction season, then we want to work with them to say, okay, well, what is the cost of doing half of the project this year, and what's the feasibility of doing that? And then what would the cost be to winter over and do this again next year? If we're at the start of a project and they say, I want to keep, we're willing to do that at minimal cost. I need to pay my bonding, for example. I need to pay my insurance in order to winter over, and here is evidence of the actual cost for me to winter this project over. Then great. You know what? We want to work with you, and we're gonna come back to the board, talk about those minimal costs with probably a recommendation that says, yeah, let's extend this project and work with this contractor. If that same contractor, though, were to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to jack this price up and I'm going to charge you a 10% premium for delaying. This is all beyond my control. I want to charge you all this money. Then more than likely, we're probably going to terminate that contract. And we have the opportunity to do that, particularly before a project before we've issued the notice to proceed with minimal cost to the district.
Okay.
And so those are kind of two ends of the spectrum. More than likely, we'll be in between on some things, but we want to, where it makes sense and there's value to the district and it makes sense to do it, and we can do work in a safe fashion. We want to do that. We need to get this work done, as we all know. The reason these contracts are out there is because we got to get this done. These are not optional projects. If we don't do them now, we're going to have to do them later. And so we'd much rather move forward, get it done, and move on to the next thing. But we also don't want to have our ratepayers paying an exorbitant amount and unnecessary cost in order to extend projects and winter them over.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
And I'm glad I answered that question. I'm glad I answered that question with my mute button off, so that I didn't just run through all of that and for myself at my room. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have anything before we adjourn this thing? All right. Thank you all for participating, and we'll see you in I think 3 weeks. Is it a longer month now? We'll see you all in 3 weeks when everything will be rosy. Don't miss.
It'll all be different.